Welcome back, Sports Talk, and I have Mike with me this hour.
Thanks for having me this morning. Glad to be here.
Together, we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sport. But first, we start in rugby, where Nigeria is stepping up efforts to become a major contender in the International Rugby League. This is according to the president of the association, Biodu Olawale. It has to be because Nigeria has come a long way in rugby. Do you agree with him?
I think from the start that they made the last year, I think it looks likely that in Nigeria we are gradually growing and building an empire in the rugby football. Last year, is 2025, at least we did some exploit out there in the United States of America after such an impressive display. The first time an African team will ever display such a massive outing. So for me, I think you take a look at what is on ground and what we are seeing, the level of improvement and the level of awareness that the president is trying to create. I think maybe, just maybe we can get there if more attention is paid to some of these little details in trying to develop some of the talents. Of course, we have, large number of talents that we can actually harness if we are ready to do the needful. But then, I agree with her.
Talking about talents in rugby, do we have grassroots activities going on here in Nigeria? Because oftentimes when we go to championship, it has to be reliant on the foreign-based, athletes. In rugby, do we have grassroots activities, grassroots competitions, maybe in schools and across the states?
Not as much as one expected to, but then that is not to say that they've totally not paid attention to grassroots development. You listen to the president out there in that her speech. He also emphasized the fact that we need to go back to the grassroots, talking about the secondary and the primary school to get some of this raw talent. And it just goes beyond rhetorics on pages of a newspaper. I want to see these things actualize so that we can probably grow the homegrown talent, because just like you've posited, many times when we are going for any competition, we rely solely on the foreign-based players, and we can't do that and get it correctly. If we want to get it right, then we must, as a matter of urgency, try to look inward. We've seen a couple of mini tournaments organized here and there, especially during the Yuletide period. But then it's beyond that. It's not just about exhibition, it's about intentional plan to develop the game if we want to take it far. So I call for more urgency in terms of local development of talents.
Well, we just hope that the developments, do I say new developments in rugby will find a footing, because we really see activities across the states and, of course, especially in schools where they are budding talents that could be interested in rugby. From rugby, we have to go to tennis now, where it was a disappointing start for Nigeria's Haruna Quadri and other African table tennis stars at the ongoing World Table Tennis Championship taking place in Doha. As Haruna Quadri, of course, go down from Egypt, were not in a good spot at the arena in Qatar. We understand Haruna faced China's Liang Junkun in the round of 32, but it was a one-sided affair as the Chinese ensured that it was a 3-0. I say 3-love, if you ask me there. Haruna Quadri, Nigeria's best tennis player, Africa's best tennis players, do I say on the wrong side of the game against the Chinese?
Yeah, definitely. I saw that one coming. I was not that too hopeful about Haruna Quadri this year in his the first WTT championship out there in Doha. The reason is very simple. Last year he had a very poor outing, compared to Haruna Quadri that we know of his prowess in the game. With that, I just know that this year's edition is going to be tough for him, because, in fact, because of his poor run last year, he failed to qualify for the WTT championship, and that is to tell you how the last season, talking about last year, was so disappointing for him. early knockout in the round of 32 and round of 62 as well last year as well. So I think not a good one for Haruna Quadri. I will keep talking about the need for we to develop a new talent that can possibly take up the baton of leader. At 37, I mean, he has done his bid, no doubt, but then he should have been able to, of course, close up, finish very strong. That is if you want to, leave the big stage for now. So I think inconsistency of form, then you talk about the fact that he has found the last year pretty difficult, and thirdly, this is the first major competition for the year 2026, so you may possibly say that he just still try to grease his hands and see how to get back into the rhythm. But for now, I think it was not just a Haruna Quadri for Nigeria, but then disappointingly for the African players as well, as some of the top name Hanagoda and also fell to the firepower of their opponent. Not a good one. Haruna Quadri coming up against a Chinese. I knew it because the Chinese, we take a look at the rankings right now in the world of table tennis. The Chinese dominate from number 1 down to 20. You see Brazilians and France as well, calling the show. So I think a lot need to be done for this year by Haruna Quadri.
Haruna Quadri, no doubt, starting the year on the wrong foot there, defeated by a Chinese opponent. It's not only Haruna Quadri that is suffering in the proper form. I've asked me, because even his second place, Omar Assar from Egypt, as well had a nightmare in the World Table Tennis Championship ongoing in Qatar. He too lost to Japanese. So it looks like it's a difficult time for African players at the championship. We can't say enough about trying to get replacement for these top tennis players from Africa. But meanwhile, Goda, the female tennis version of Omar Assar, is trucking on at the table tennis championship.
Definitely, because she's been able to stay consistent in the last 3 years right now. You could also recall that she is the only African female player to have gotten to the quarterfinals of the WTT. She did so, consecutively. She did that in 2024 and also repeated the same feat in 2025, getting to the quarterfinal, the first female in the continent of Africa to do so. So I think I give her thumbs up for what she's doing.
Could have Egypt this level of popping and congratulations there, because she's made Africa proud there. Wish her that she can go as far as it is possible at the championship. From tennis, that is from lawn tennis. From table tennis, we'll go to lawn tennis now. And world number 1, Arina Sabalenka, says tennis authorities follow their interest with regards to the tennis calendar and not focusing on the protection, or that's the protecting of the players themselves. There's been a lot of front and back about tennis in the last few days, from how much you should get from sponsors' money, and now to welfare in this time, about arrangement of schedules. There are so many games to be played in the course of the year. In the next few days now, we'll start with the Australian Open, which is a major Grand Slam. Beyond the Grand Slams, there are other tennis championships, and the players are beginning to complain about loading of schedules for them in the course of the season.
I think for me, not really a good one for these players as well, because last season I started this complaint about the number of games that they have to play, and this has caused a whole lot of injury to some of these key players, where they cannot stay 100% fit throughout the course of the season. Why? Because of the choky calendar, that is out there by the Tennis Association. And for me, I think they should think about this on how to reduce the number of games, because they are compelled to play as much as 20, all right, in major Grand Slam, and then about 10 other, making a total number to 30 per season. And it's too much for these players. The worst aspect is that they are compelled to play even the 500 ATP point ranking, and if you fail to participate in any of these, you'll be sanctioned. Why? Because at some point you'll be deducted out of the tally that you've accumulated, which for me, I think it is very, very cumbersome for these players to cope up with such number of games. It's a very, very choky calendar, which I think for me they need to de-escalate the calendar, so that at least these players have can also have a sigh of relief, at least, to breathe within the course of the season. And then again, despite the choky calendar, you take a look at the amount of money that this table tennis federation makes. It is huge, and if you juxtapose that with how much they give out back to the players who are the key players, it is a far cry. And that is why, for me, I think they should reduce the number of the games so that the players can be 100% fit throughout the course of the season as well.
They say who gets a chunk of the money should pull it out, but the ladies are beginning to feel the impact of a crowded schedule. We remember, what's her name now? Iga Swiatek. She was really fine, deducted points from after she couldn't meet up with the number of mandatory requirements, the number of WTA games that she was supposed to play. So it's really shocking. For females, they are not as strong as the male. They need time as well to raise family and all of that. So I think it's genuine complaint, and we hope the tennis authorities will look into crowded schedule for top players in the course of the season. From tennis now, we'll do basketball. And talking about basketball, the area where you can find top action is the NBA. And Charlotte Hornets, playing at home in Charlotte, lost to Indiana Pacers, 112 points to 114 points. 2 points difference, but it made a whole lot.
Definitely was a very cagey encounter. I actually watched the clips of that particular game early hours of this morning. Some players showed some brilliance, individual brilliance out there, but then it was more like a team play from both sides. I really enjoyed that game, and the result alone can tell you how cagey it was. Just 2-point disparity that separated both sides, but then I think it was a great game to watch.
Talk about great games. The Cavaliers from Cleveland traveled all the way to Minnesota to meet the Timberwolves, and went home with not very happy because it ended 121 points. 132 points to 131. The Minnesota Timberwolves beating Cavaliers there. Meanwhile, Utah Jazz beat Dallas Mavericks by 116 points to 114 points. That's another 2 points victory there for the Jazz from Utah. Meanwhile, Chicago Bulls went to Miami, were home to Miami, and that fixture, I think I should get in the results just before wrap up. Mind, do you have results for the Chicago Bulls versus Miami encounter?
No, not at all. Still trying to check. Maybe before we leave, I can track it.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. But it looks like the big name players are not giving the impact you expect of them this year in the NBA.
Yeah, definitely. The likes of Gianni Antetokounmpo, the likes of LeBron James, of course, and so many other. They are not really living up to the expectations so far this season. There have not been one outstanding player that you want to say, yes, this is one of the big names that we've seen, what he's been able to bring to the table so far this season. And the reason is very simple. The new draft that we had for this season, I think some of the young lads, they are doing exceptionally well. And this is why it looks as though they've actually, taken the shines of some of these regular big names out there. But that is not to say that some of these big names have not done pretty well, but then compared to the exceptional and the special difference that they bring to the table is what we have not seen so far. But then I think the season is still on. We'll see if we can see some of these top names, all right, putting up an impressive display.
Well, if the top basketball follower of the Chicago Bulls Miami Heat encounter has been postponed, and so there will be a later date for that fixture if you're expecting it. Definitely is not on the cards, at least for now. And for us, we need to take a break now. When we return from the break, there will be a lot more coming, especially in football, where the African Cup of Nations enter into the quarterfinal stage today. Who gets the first ticket into the semi-finals? Will it be Morocco? Will it be Cameroon? What an encounter to look forward to. And of course, there's yet another encounter as well. I'll give you details when we return for a break. Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. In the past, and just in the first few minutes, we've told you about how rugby is beginning to gain ground here in Nigeria. Beyond rugby, we'll bring you football stories now. Mike, it looks like what we see often in the male Premier League is beginning to happen in the female football league as well. Only a few days ago, we saw crowd trouble at Uyo, where Ibom Angels hosted Bayelsa Queens in a Premier League fixture. Fans encroached, harassed, and molested the away team, Bayelsa Queens players and the officials. And now, because of this incident, they have been fined by the authorities and, of course, asked to play behind closed doors. Talking about Ibom Angels.
I think it's quite despicable for me. What we are seeing in the Nigerian Premier Football League is going to occur, rear its ugly head rather, in the women league as well. I think for me it's not a good one. We are trying to demarcate our league down here, because if a team cannot go away from home and come back safely, then it calls for serious worry. Beyond the 2-point-something million naira that was fined and ordered to play, behind closed door their next 3 games, I also think that Modupe Shabi is also in need to be given some kudos because of, a swift reaction after the match commissioners tabled their report for that troubling encounter out there in Uyo. I think for me it's not a good one. We must as well try to, of course, educate the fans so that they will know the implication of some of their action, because many times some of the fans don't even know the implication of that, because some of them they are just trying to, they want to protect their own. But then it goes beyond that. You must know the implication that comes with your actions and inaction on match day. That is could be very troubling time for your team because of the singular action of a fan out there. Your team can be banned. Your team will be deducted points. So I think the club side as well need to, of course, do proper orientation and even reorientation for their supporters out there.
Well, now let's get to African Cup of Nations proper. And we understand the Super Eagles of Nigeria have already arrived Marrakesh. The encounter comes up tomorrow against their counterparts at the African Cup of Nations. And the Desert Foxes of Algeria has been there as well, waiting for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The match takes place tomorrow. But first, before we get to tomorrow's fixture, let's look at the fixtures for today. Mali versus Senegal. The first fixture comes out at 5 p.m. Nigerian time in a race to qualify for the semi-final of this year's competition. A lot of money is at stake. Beyond money, it looks like the Malians will find a way to stop World Cup bound Senegal.
Yeah, I think it promises to be a very interesting game. One, because of so many reasons. It's a contradicting performance for both teams. First off, Mali, they remain the only team that have not been able to win a single game within the 90-minute duration.
And they are in the quarterfinal.
In fact, the last game against Tunisia in the last 16 was more like a miracle, because they were down by 10 men. They still find a way to come back into that game, even with 10 men down, a goal down, but then they had to draw parity at the nick of full time before it now went to penalty shootout. Whereas on the contrary, Senegal has been very, very efficient and very effective.
They scored as many as 3 goals.
Exactly. During the group stage, I think they won 2 of their games, 3-0, then played draws in the last game. Then in the round of 16, you saw how they came from a goal down to win 3 goals to 1 in that particular. So that is why I say more like a contradicting, performance from both two teams. One is a team that is firing, and the other is a team that is riding its luck through the tournament. So far, we'll just see how it goes this evening, whether Mali can be that lucky again against the Teranga Lions of Senegal.
There's a limit to which luck can ride you in the football match, and from what we've seen so far, you do not see an established player carrying the Eagles of Mali.
Definitely. Maybe Bissouma is the only outstanding player that you can just single out there. He's been more like a unit, more like a team play, not solely relying on individual brilliance to make the difference in the team.
And for the Senegalese, a collection of stars that play football across Europe?
Definitely. A race of stars, assembled together for the coach out the likes of Ismail Assar. You talk about Nicola Jackson, talk about Sadio Mane, Koulibaly, stars out there in Europe and different parts of the world. So and that is why they are playing so good, and they are one of the favorites. So we'll just see if they can be able to continue with this impressive art, because sometimes football doesn't really care, doesn't really respect whether you are playing in Europe or not. It's about the tenacity and the readiness for the players to deliver on the mandates.
They're not just about playing in Europe. Most of the Senegalese players have a lot of African Cup of Nations competition experience as well.
Definitely. If you take a look at the squad out there, the age range are within 25, 28, 30. All right. So I think experience have come to play, because the likes we just mentioned, Koulibaly, Sadio Mane.
They play 3, 4, 4 Nations Cup.
Exactly. So they have collections of experience when you talk about the African Cup of Nations. And no doubt the reason why they are one of the favorites.
Talking about favorites for the African Cup of Nations for year 2025-2026, it has to be the host nation, Morocco. Yes, the Atlas Lions of Morocco into the quarterfinal fixture later tonight at 8 p.m. Nigerian time. And who are the, do I say the opposing team? Wow. Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, one team that has played several matches at the African Cup of Nations. Look at this fixture. The Moroccans have done everything. They are going to the World Cup. They are the best African football playing nation when it comes to World Cup ratings. But they have a very stubborn Indomitable Lions of Cameroon that have been still licking their wounds of not qualifying for FIFA World Cup this year. And everybody believes that it could be the Moroccans going to the semi-final of this year's competition because they are favorites. But then, from what we've seen of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, they are playing with the gusto of not qualifying for the FIFA World Cup.
Definitely. You take a look at this Cameroonian side, they've been able to surmount and overcome some off-pitch, pressures, to...
As usual, bonuses.
Exactly. John, you talk about some key players that were not also invited. You talk about the federation's president, getting in disagreement. Exactly, getting in disagreement with the president of the country, talking about Paul Biya, who was trying to superimpose his own decision over the FA's running of activity. So, but then this Cameroonian side, they've been able to overcome most of these off-field issues and play like a game. Meanwhile, the host, Morocco, they have not been that convincing. Even their last game that they won 1-0 against Tanzania, the coach, talking about Rodrigo, he came out to say, yeah, they won the game, but he's personally not happy because of the way the game went. He wasn't really convinced. So for me, I think it promises to be, a mouth-watering clash. But then on paper, so many we say, okay, Morocco, because they are hosting, they are going to, nick this one on the board. But then they are coming up against a tough Cameroonian side. In fact, if you go through the record, you discover that Morocco has never beaten, Cameroon in this very stage in the African Cup of Nations, and that is another record that we need to watch at. And for these Cameroonians, I think they've been able to mature the way they play on the pitch of play after the game as well. The way they stay united. Likes of Brian Mbeumo, I think he's been very, very instrumental for that, Indomitable Lions team so far. You
just mentioned the name Brian Mbeumo. He looks like the only star player on the Cameroonian side. Brian, of course, plays for Manchester United in the Premier League. And in this squad that is representing Cameroon at the African Cup of Nations, he's about the only name you can remember if you are a follower of European football.
Definitely is the most outstanding names that you can rightly come to your mind as one of the key stars out there. But then they still have other, younger, talented players as well. But it's just that their name has not been that heralded in the world of football. And I think he's been living up to expectation. He's been doing his best out there. No doubt, some of the big regular names that so many expected, Andre Onana, Vincent Abubakar, Chipomoting, these were not also invited, but then he has stepped up big in that team. And the way he's getting himself involved in the team activity, I think he needs to be given special recommendation.
African Cup of Nations involving individual Lions, and without Andre Onana, of course, I think a lot of search is on the future for the Lions of Cameroon. But let's go off the pitch now. Something intriguing. Up till late last night, center referee for this feature has not been named from CAF, and it's unusual. At least referees are informed about the fixture 48 hours before. But for this encounter, the appointment of referee for this match has been covered in secrecy. And what could be the reason for CAF for not appointing or giving public awareness to officials to handle this encounter?
I think the reason is very simple. CAF came out to allude the fact that there seems to be some tension and pressure mounted upon
because
referees.
Of the host nation.
Exactly.
And Cameroon with what is his name, Samuel Eto'o insisting that the proper thing should be done.
Exactly, and this is why CAF officials have taken a close look at the situation and decided to say, okay, we are not going to go public again. We are going to be more confidential in terms of announcing referees at this stage in time. And I think for me, it's very, very, ideal for CAF to come out with such a bold.
Does that give room to the, maybe insinuation that these referees sometimes are being influenced?
For me, I just want to, skip that question because it could be very sensitive.
But we've not had any poor officiating so far at the tournament. I don't know whether you agree with me.
Definitely, I agree. I think the only controversies, somewhat that we have is the earlier game where there was a malfunctioning of the VAR, but that is not.
It could happen.
Yeah,
it's not strange. That's not a manipulation, if you ask me.
Exactly.
Well, that's what we can see. CAF in the dilemma there, if you ask me, but definitely there will be a center referee for that encounter at 8 p.m. Nigerian time. We may not have been made public, but then we are told that we are being informed by email, and so it's just to go to a box and check whether you have been listed, and then you move to the venue, and that do not allow you to be, be contacted maybe from officials from either side. But the home nation will be on showcase today, like Mike did allude there. They have not been very convincing beside the first match they played. They have not been very convincing. But against the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, it is a showpiece advertisement of African football that we will see at 8 p.m. Nigerian time. Time for us now to look at the Super Eagles of Nigeria. They are not in action today. They will be in action tomorrow. But there has been the typical Nigerian way, if you ask me, leading up to this encounter. At every competition at the top level, we often hear of a bonus row between the officials and the players. Players, asking for their bonuses, the officials giving one excuse or the other. This time around, the players are asking for bonus of the matches they've played, all 4 games they have played so far, leading up to this quarterfinal fixture. And of course, there have been a series of meetings which led to the delay of the players leaving first, where they were playing their group games, and now to Marrakesh. But after some intervention, promises have been made. The players have now moved to Marrakesh a bit late, but then they've arrived. And after one of that meeting, the players have decided not to talk to the press, and officials are saying these monies are going to be paid. Don't we make provisions for this incident? Were we playing to crash out of the competition in the first round or something?
I think that question will be best answered by, the NFF Supremo, talking about Ibrahim Gusso. I think, first off, it's quite disappointing that it looks more like a recurrent decimal, talking about match bonuses for the Super Eagles players. You could also recall that in November last year, the preparation leading to the World Cup playoff against Gabon, the players also skipped training, all right, because of the World Cup, bonus issues and row. At this time, when we are at this very crucial stage of the African Cup of Nations, one should think rather that all of those challenges has been, surmounted and everything are very okay and the coast is very clear for the Super Eagles to sail through. But then quite disappointing that this kind of disturbing news is coming yet again, that their match bonuses and allowances for the 4 games played already have not been paid. And I think for me it's quite disappointing to say the least. But then I hear that the Minister for Finance has already promised that they are going to fast-track the process to, so as to ensure that this money is paid. But beyond that, the captain of the side, Wilfred Ndidi as well, has come out to boldly say that he's going to offset the bill. That is if that money is not released on time. And he goes to tell you how bad the situation is, that the NFF cannot put their acts together and see that this bonus and match allowance issue has been put to rest. I think I'm quite disappointed, to say the least.
Well, keep our fingers crossed. We understand the payment is being processed, and we hope it will come. But for the captain of the side and to have, a peaceful team and a team that is ready for the war against their counterparts at the quarterfinal stage of the competition or general side, they have now come out. He has come out to say he was going to underwrite that payment if the processed ones do not get to the players on time. I think the players themselves too have agreed with their captain, and so that match will come up. And it looks like Nigeria strives in controversy, Mike. This is maybe we need the controversy so that the team will just get results. We didn't have to go to the World Cup for the team to perform from what we have seen now. Aftermath of that World Cup debacle, and we have seen the team play football, good football, and getting results. And now this issue of bonus row, but then in the midst of this controversy, do you see this team going past their counterparts from Algeria?
It's a very, very big question, because if you go by the record, the last 5 meetings with these two sides, talking about Algeria and the Super Eagles, it's been more like a one-sided affair in terms of the result churn out. Out of the 5 last meeting, Algerians, they've won 4 times, and we just managed to win 1, and it tells you how keenly contested encounter the game is going to be tomorrow. So I can't rightly give my prediction on who is going to win this particular. If you take a look at what is on ground presently, I think the Super Eagles, they've done pretty well, scoring the highest number of goals, 12, conceding 4. They remain the only side in this tournament, yes, that have not, lower down the expectation from bookmakers who tip them as one of the favorites. I think you go by that, you may want to say yes, Nigeria have a day to rejoice against the Algerians that have often dominated the last 5 meetings out there. But then for the Algerians, you can, write them off. There is this thing about Africa football. Whenever the West Africans meet the North Africans, it always seems to be in favor of the North Africans. Can that jinx be broken? We'll just wait and see tomorrow how it's going to pan out.
Well, we'll wait and see. Tomorrow, the Super Eagles of Nigeria have an encounter with their counterparts from Algeria in a bid to qualify for the semi-final of this year's African Cup of Nations ongoing in Morocco. Time for us to begin to wrap up the show, and of course, we go straight to Europe now. And the emphasis in football was on the encounter between Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium versus Liverpool, in a bid to extend the lead at the top of the Premiership in England. Mike, what a match. It was divided into 2 halves. Arsenal had the better of the first half, and Liverpool came to the second half with completely different play from what we saw of them in the first half. It ended goalless at the end of 90 minutes plus added time in that encounter. So the league table right now is Arsenal having a difference of just 6 points, or do I say 6 points, rather than 8 as expected, with the second place Manchester City.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good result for Arsenal. Playing at home at Emirates Stadium, where your opponent, your closest rival, had already dropped a point. That should have been the extra motivation for the Gunners to go all out for 3 points. Playing in the front of your home crowd, you had Liverpool for the taking in the first half, but then they failed to, score a goal and close that particular game, allowing the game to go into allowing the players to go into the tunnel for the first half at zeros. Liverpool came back in the second half and was more like a Liverpool affair in the second half. So I think for me, this title chase, talking about the English Premier League title chase, I think it's going to go down the wire. Hence, most of these teams that expectedly to fight for the title are not really doing pretty well. The likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, even Liverpool are just trying to recover from their poor games a few weeks ago. We talk about Tottenham, which other team that could be the title contender. They are not just doing pretty well at all. Even Manchester City, they are dropping points here and there. So I think by now, Arsenal should have gone 12 points behind their leaders if they have been taking their chances whenever Manchester City dropped
12 points above their leaders?
Definitely. So I think it was more like a gain for Liverpool, who pick vital point away. But a loss for Arsenal, because if they had won yesterday, they would have gone 8 points clear of leaders. Talking about Manchester City. If you are losing with 6 points, if you draw one game and lose the next, that could just do the damage for you.
6 points gap between Arsenal, Premier League leaders, and second place Manchester City there. There are more games to play, at least 16 games or thereabout to play in the Premiership. So it is not completely over. There is more games, like I said, to play. The war and who gets it this year in the Premier League is continuing. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. This weekend there will be no action. There will be no Premier League football this weekend, but then it will return after, and it promises to be thrilling. I think there's the FA Cup fixtures that are coming up this weekend. But attention now, haven't left Premier League in England, is on the Spanish La Liga. There is what looks like an El Clasico this weekend.
Definitely, after Real Madrid overpowered their city rival, talking about Atletico, 2-1 in a very fierce account that saw both managers go for the jugular against each other, exchanging some rough words out there. Then they've been able to book their place to the final. And of course, Barca were already waiting in the wings.